everybody. Welcome to our first online math lesson. I'm excited to do this with you. Today we're going to be continuing working with our equivalent fractions and fraction strips, and we're going to start by stating our goal. Our goal is to use an area model or fraction strip, which we all know are below and are also the same. And we're going to find equivalent fractions. Now we all know that equal is in the word equivalence. We know that by the first part of the word, EQU, equal. And we're going to find the equivalent fractions. So let's get started. Below you can see that we have two fraction strips that are both equal to 1/3. And we're going to work together to find the equivalent fraction for 1/3. How we're going to do this is to find that first, the equivalent fraction. And there's many ways we can do that, but right now we're going to start just by doing it in two parts. And I'm going to quickly make my line, set it up in half, change my paper so you guys can see it better. Cool. So we have equivalent fractions and we divided them in two equal parts. We divided our 1/3 in two equal parts. On the left here we have 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, which we know makes 3/3 or a whole. And on the right we have it now in sixths. But we have more parts that are taken up. How many parts do we have? We know the denominator is 6 and our numerator is what? Is it 1? No. We have to look above and we have to see how many parts are now shaded. We have 2 shaded parts. So we know that 1/3 on the left is equal to 1/6 plus 1/6, or 2/6. Cool? Yep, very cool. Let's keep going and move on. Now we're going to scroll down, and I have put two fraction strips that are equal to 1/4. We know what this part is 1/4. The second part is, they're all fourths. And when we put the fourths together, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, add them up, we get 4/4 or 1 whole. Now we're going to look and try to find the equivalent fraction on our right. How are we going to do that? Well, let's start by splitting it up into two parts again. Starting easy. Now we don't have fourths anymore, we have eighths. We have 8 parts, so we put 8 in our denominator. So there's our 1/8, another 1/8, keep going on and on. You guys know these are each 1/8. So in order to find out how many eighths we have to shade them in and see, okay, Miss Brock, we have 2 shaded eighths instead of 1/4. So we have 2/8. That is our equivalent fraction. 1/4 is equal to 2/8. But can we keep going? Definitely. Instead of finding what it is for eighths now, we need to find out, is there another equivalent fraction for 1/4 if I move that separating line and I'm dividing it into more equal parts? So I'm going to move that line up. Oops. And add another line to split my what was 1/4 into 3 equal parts. And that gives me 1/12. I have 12 equal parts now. So now I need to find out 1/4 is equivalent to how many 12ths. And I see there that I have 3 shaded box now. 1/12, 1/12, and 1/12 gives me 3/12. So 1/4 is also equivalent to 2/8 and 1/4. I didn't change the shading, I only changed the denominators. So let's move on. Or not. Oh, now we're going to try to use multiplication today to find our equivalent fractions. It's much easier than what you might think if you're able to really understand your multiplication table. So we're going to start something simple such as 1/2. And to find the equivalent fraction of 1/2 by using multiplication, we know obviously that 1/2 is equal to 1/2. And I can find that actually by just multiplying 1 and 1 by 1/2. Now it's not 1/1, but it's just we're multiplying the top and the bottom, or the numerator and denominator, by 1. And we know that 1/2 times 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom gives me 1/2. So 1/2 is equivalent to 1/2. Now let's go to the next step. How can we find out that 1/2 has more equivalent fractions by using multiplication? So let's try 2's. We're going to split it into 2 parts now. 1/2 times 2. And we're going to watch it on our fraction strip above. We're going to make 1/2 into 2 parts. So all I do is I take my fraction strip and I split it into 2 parts. Now we can see above that I have fourths in my fraction strip or area model, and that's going to give me 2/4 because we know below that 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now we can keep going and try to find more equivalent fractions by multiplying the numerator and denominator by other numbers. So we're going to try and multiply it by 3 this time and split our 1/2 fraction strip into 3 equal parts. So there's my top part, separating it into 1, 2, 3 parts. Now I know that 2 times 3 gives me the denominator of 6. I can see that in my fraction strip above. I have 6 equal parts. And I have 3 parts shaded in. So 1 times 3 is equal to 3. And 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So I have 1/2 is equal to 3/6. Sound good? All right, we're going to move on to our last example using a fraction strip. These are 2 equivalent fraction strips that I've drawn. The one on the left is equal to 2/4. And we want to find, well, yes, it's also equal to 1/2. We know that by looking at the bar. And we know that by previously equivalent fractions. What we're going to do now is find an equivalent fraction to 2/4 by multiplying the top and the bottom, or the numerator and denominator, by the same number. I can multiply them by any number, but right now we're going to start with something simple like 2. So I'm going to split each part into 2 parts. First, I'm going to check my work. I know that 2 times 2 is equal to 4, and 4 times 2 is equal to 8. And I'm going to show that in 4/8 in my fraction strip above. So by using multiplication, I don't really even need a fraction chart. What I can really do is just use my multiplication skills. So now I'm going to try to split it each part into 4. I'm going to look below to check my work. Did I make an equivalent fraction strip that's the same? We know 2 times 4 is 8 and 4 times 4 is 16, and I'm going to look above. I know that my fraction strip has 12 equal parts, so that can't be an equivalent fraction to what I've shown in my equation below. What I have to do is split each part into 4 equal parts that I'm showing in my multiplication below. So there's 4 equal parts there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I multiply it by 4. And I have to do the same thing to the other side. Now I have 16ths, and I know that I have 16ths. And I have 8 shaded 16ths. So 2/4 is also equal to 8 16ths, and we have found another equivalent fraction. Now what we're going to do is first I'm going to show you, we're going to do it without a fraction strip or area model, same thing. And because I know you guys are all so great at your multiplication and division facts, we're going to do this without using a model. But if you still need to use a model at home, that's totally fine, because in your Zern work, they'll have you continue to do fraction strips and area models. So what I'm doing right now is I'm multiplying both by 3, but I made a mistake here. I'm not multiplying it by 3 over 3, which is a whole. I'm multiplying both by 3. So I don't even need to indicate that there's a fraction strip. I'm just going to show you guys that there's multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 3. So when I multiply 1 times 3, I get 3, and 2 times 3, I get 6. So yup, 1/2 is equal to 3/6. Now let's try again. What about 1 times 10 or 2 times 10? I know that 1/2 is also equal to 10 over 20. Those are equivalent fractions. Okay, now it's going to be your guys' turn to try. In the comment section below, in the Google Forms below, I'm going to have an exit ticket, and you're going to have to solve this equation in your exit ticket. It's pretty much me saying, did you watch this whole movie? Are you grasping the concept? So in case we're not grasping it, we don't have to move on. But here's an example first. So show me 4 times 5 is equal to what? 4 times 5 is equal to, 20. 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Sorry, I got ahead of myself a little bit with that exit ticket there. 4/5 is equal to 20 over 25. Those are equivalent fractions. Now it's your turn. This is the question that you're going to be answering in the Google form. So we're going to find an equivalent fraction for 3/4. And I want you to tell me, what am I multiplying to get this equivalent fraction? What number did I multiply to get 12/16? I multiplied it by what? So 3 times a number gives me 12, and 4 times that same number is going to give me 16 to get my equivalent fraction of 12/16. So in your Google form, you're going to tell me, what number did Miss Brock multiply 3/4 by to get 12/6? This will be your exit ticket, and I also want to see that you're completing your Zern notebook at home as well. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, make sure to comment below. And if you can't comment below, just text me or email me, and I'll make sure to get back to you. Talk to you guys later.